Peace. It's the Hood Mystic representing www.hoodmystic.com, and I'm gonna try this thing one more time. We're gonna talk about the full moon in Aries, which happened September 24th, 2018. The title of this video is called Ancestral Fortnight. Fortnight is just meaning 14 nights, and it is a period of time where the veil is thin and we have connections to the ancestors. I'll be talking about that later, talking about the full moon and the different astrological aspects, talking about some science and different things of that nature, just a whole bunch of corresponding information that can kind of prepare us spiritually for these next couple of weeks. Now, I don't know if everybody's talking about this, but I know that this conversation is rare, so I think it's a good conversation to have whenever we can talk about things that everybody's not talking about, and it can kind of make sense and we can apply it to our personal lives. I feel like that's a win. Let me turn this music down. I hope y'all was able to hear me over that, but once again, it's the Hood Mystic representing www.hoodmystic.com. Full moon in Aries video, Ancestral Fortnight. So I want to explain to people the concept of quantum physics or quantum theory and how it applies to astrology. Basically the concept of quantum physics is the more that you pay attention to something, the more that something has to pay attention to you. And it's a good article on Science Daily. The clip is right here. Just Google Science Daily observation. And what we're really going to focus on is what are we observing moving into this full moon as we deal with this waning moon, half quarter moon today. What are we paying attention to? What are we observing? Because understanding this energy, we understand that what we observe observes us back. So if we're observing hurt, if we're observing pain, if we're observing turmoil, then that's observing us back and we're corresponding with that. So I want to think of more on the higher realms of thought, observing, the planet and the celestial realms, because by default, they observe you. And no matter what any human is talking to you about, as we begin to observe, the higher consciousness, then by default, those higher consciousnesses observe us. And so this is in the form of ancestors, spiritual beings, higher guides, and things of that nature. And so another important concept is the concept of emotional cognition. Emotions representing the energy's motions as it rains and rages throughout your body. Sometimes the energy is down, sometimes the energy is up. Our energy ranges throughout our body, but are we aware? Cognition is the awareness of our emotional body so we can begin to direct that emotional frequency and emotional energy. Like I said, we're directing our energy, and this energy is representing a direction towards the higher realms, towards the ancestral realms. And I want to fully deal with the ancestral realms in this video. I want to fully discuss the ancestors in this video, because no matter who's looking at this video, we all have ancestors. We all have ancestors, loved ones that have transitioned, that through this period, Ancestral Fortnight, that observation becomes very keen. And so if we do go through this 2-week period without an observation, then that is more to the same of our lack of understanding that we are more than this human life. And so just fully understanding the dominion and establishing inner peace is all about how we're planning on discussing this full moon. And so this full moon does fall in the first decan of Aries. The first decan of Aries is such a pivotal point in astrology that it's even hard to explain. You know, having a full moon in Aries isn't rare. Having a full moon in the first decan of Aries, you know, we have to factor that in. We have to factor that this is the beginning of something. We have to factor it in that we need to align with new ideas. As if we were crafting the astrological system, Aries represents that first idea that we, you know, that first stake in the ground. Okay, we're gonna do this. That's Aries. So a full moon in Aries, it's either gonna give you that push, or it's gonna be the thing that disrupts you doing the same thing every day, and then by default gives you a new thing to do based upon form of destruction. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. We can begin to implement energy and understand this energy and begin to work and understand that, you know, maybe we just need to move. Maybe we just need a different space, time, and location to feel differently. Maybe we just need to do different things in our terrestrial lives. Maybe we need to, you know, start new jobs and, you know, all of the different variety of things that we can begin to partake in. And so the first decan of Aries is ruled by the Two of Wands, and then in the realm of Tarot, the first decan of Aries could be found in two cards separately, and that's the Emperor and the Tower. And so the Emperor is all about discipline. It's all about, you know, order, structure. And the Tower is all about destruction, you know, mayhem, confusion, chaos. And so how can these two energies coincide and still represent the same energy? It's basic life. And the more that we understand life, the more that we understand Mars, the more that we understand that we have to destroy old thought forms and old structures, and we can't always be nice about it. Life isn't always so nice about it, especially when it comes to reflecting or representing a particular spiritual truth. So first decan Aries could either be that of you getting on the saddle and headed towards, you know, your destiny, or it could represent a point in time where, you know, things collapse. And so being fully aware of why, or the reasons why things will collapse and you don't want them to collapse, is good to discuss these aspects in this astrology and everything involved with this ancestral fortnight. So the first aspect that we're going to talk about involved in this full moon is a mystic rectangle. A mystic rectangle involves 4 astrological points, 2 elements, 2 oppositions, 2 trines, and 2 sextiles. So basically, you have 4 astrological points that are working together, but then they seem to be in opposite to each other. You have to understand that this energy is going to show up 2 different ways during this full moon. You either get it or you do not get it. Energy is becoming very, very serious about what you connect to, what you correspond to, what you pay attention to. If we as a family are going to pay attention to Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and the discord that they're having, but we're not going to be paying attention to the celestial energy that is happening in the moment that is corresponding and conspiring for your greatest good, you're going to miss out on this opportunity, and you're not going to have a connection, or you're going to be seeking the comforts, or you're going to be seeking the best in life. But you know what? This energy is about taking risks. So if you're presented with the opportunity, if you're presented with a risk today, you should be overjoyed that your life is going to change, as opposed to, you know, the same old, you know, regular everyday things. Full moons represent a time of culmination, a time of revelation, a time of illumination. So we deal with what we sowed into our secret garden, one of the last topics that we talked about in our daily energy reading. And so the overall theme for this full moon energy and the theme of this article and the theme of this video is the fact that there is an ever-present link to the celestial realms, but it needs our attention. If you're worried about what's happening in the everyday thing, then you don't understand a mystic rectangle. The key point of it is mystic. Mystic meaning that I'm more than what meets the eye. I'm deeply connected to spirit. I can make things happen through spirit. That's what a mystic is. And a mystic can't be defined by another person. A mystic is dead set in his work, in his art, in his functionality in the realms of magic, nature. And it is not to be debated or discussed about how you handle your business and your link to your celestial truth. I cannot infiltrate that. The only thing that I try to do is influence or give more strength upon your reality or your cognizance of even understanding the fact that you have a celestial existence. And so we want to keep with the theme. We want to keep the idea steady as we discuss these different astrological concepts. So the next concept that we're discussing is a T-square. The full moon is opposed to the sun, and these energies are 180 degrees apart from each other. So generally, when you have a full moon, you'll have a planet that falls in between that 180 degree spectrum. And so generally, every full moon, a majority of full moons have a T-square attached to them, more than not. And this full moon is no different from previous full moons where we have a T-square, and that T-square is formed by Saturn. And so Saturn really wants us to get out of these structures and out of these times and, you know, really identifying, well, who runs this corporation? Are me and his ideologies matched? Or are they just giving me a paycheck? Am I aligned with people that match me ideologically? Or I'm just doing shit for existential means and I'm out here surviving, trying to come up. Not being really connected to the fact that there is ease and simplicity once you do things the correct way. When you connect to spirit the correct way, then from that, ease and simplicity comes into your life. And the worry and the fear and the things that enter your being are a result of you not being fully connected to spirit. Because even though you may worry, even though you may fear, what you will notice is that things take care of you. Things are taken care of, rather. So the more that you can align with the energy that things are taken care of, the more that you'll realize that this is a truth. This is a fact. The more that you connect with your spirit, the more that you experience the ease and simplicity that comes along with it, the more that you'll realize that this is a truth. So we are paying attention to our spirituality. We are fully enveloped in developing our quantum physics, you know, on the go. We don't have to have, you know, degrees from MIT to understand that the more that we pay attention to a particular electron, the more that electron has to change. This is the double split, the double slit experiment. They say, hey, we run this light through this beam, and when we're looking at this light, it acts a different way. But when we're not looking at it, it acts a different way. And the more that we look at this electron, the more that it changes. So the more that you pay attention to your higher self, the more that you realize that you have chakras, the more that you realize that universal law is valid, the more that you utilize and exemplify these characters and thought processes into your daily, normal, everyday waking life. And, you know, I do it like this because nobody is putting it down the way, you know, like this. It's a whole bunch of stuff that confuses you. A whole bunch of you should join here. We should talk about this. We should do it like this. Oh, I don't trust you. And a whole bunch of conjecture. But what I'm talking about, I hope that is plain, simple English that you could take it home with you, tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your friends, tell your brother, and it makes sense to them. The more that we pay attention to the spirits, the more that we pay attention to the ancestors, the more that we are guided and understand that it's more than it's our human wants and needs and desires, the more that we come into truth. And this is undeniable fact. This is not something that I'm speaking about through conjecture or something that I read in a book. This is something that I've lived through. So you could take that or leave that, however. So the learning triangle, as opposed to, you know, the my life was all good triangle, you know, I had a perfect life triangle, the learning triangle, right? You want to deal with people who've been through some stuff. You get the most knowledge from a wino in front of the liquor store. You get the most knowledge from a crackhead. You get the most knowledge for somebody that you sitting next to on the bus that done been through some shit. That's just my personal experience. We all can sit and talk about shit on YouTube and have a lot of knowledge and explain things and be charismatic and be beautiful and have beautiful backdrops and, you know, be tech savvy and know how to get a lot of subscribers and know how to get a lot of reach. We could do all of these things. But if you're not learning, if you're not growing, what are you doing? So I strive to not make this channel an easy channel to get with. I try to make it, you know, somewhat difficult. I want to challenge my listeners. I want them to have pens and papers. I want them to be studied. I want them to have, you know, reasonable conversations with me. I don't want them to think that I can save them. I don't want to seem more special than nobody else, because everything that I've been through, anything that I've experienced, I have learned. Because this person that you're seeing, the person that you're talking to, I was not always this person. I've learned. And so if we're ever faced with an obstacle, if we're ever dealing with some shit that we are afraid of, and it can be a host of all sorts of things that we know that are our truths that we're afraid of, and these are obstacles in our lives, you didn't necessarily know what was going to be on the other side of that obstacle. And I'm here to tell you that through experience, you want to see what's on the other side of that obstacle. You want to go through that ratchet phase or that quote unquote hoe phase. You don't want to not go through it and then wonder, you know, what would it been like, and you damn near 70 years old and you never experienced, you know, normal everyday physical sensual pleasures. Very simple stuff, but, you know, a lot of people get stuck with, you know, doing the shit that they really want to do, which is ironic, but a lot of people struggle with that. They doing what society requires them to do when society don't give a damn about them. This is something that you got to realize, that nobody is paying attention to you. It's all about what you're paying attention to. So if you're paying attention to people paying attention to you, then by default that gets expanded. And the reality is, it's just that you're focused on that. Of course people are paying attention to me, but I'm not focused on them paying attention to me. I'm solely focused on my connection to source. I just want to see what that has for me. And the next astrological concept that we're going to discuss is the Grand Cross, which includes Mars, which includes Venus, which includes the North Node, which includes Uranus and Taurus. And we've been we've been talking about this Grand Cross in our daily energy readings, but I just want to touch on it here. Because a Grand Cross is nothing to play with. A Grand Cross, if you're not spiritually attuned, you could be very confused and going through a very tough time right now. Because a lot of us are not raised in truth. A lot of us are raised in making other people feel happy or making people feel comfortable with us being here. And the moment that we begin to speak our truth, it becomes a cross. Now, we've been discussing this energy for a long, long time. So we've, not to brag or feel any good about ourselves in this channel, but we've fully invested, you know, in our truth. We're comfortable in our truth here. I've talking to people on such a deep level, on so many different levels, that There's nothing but truth on this channel. And I appreciate that. There is no negativity. It's just positive people who are like-minded, who want to be deeper connected to source. So a grand cross isn't going to be a thing that holds us back on this channel. But we really need to pay attention to the world surrounding us. You know, it's nothing worse in the celestial, earthly realms, no matter where you go throughout this world, to disrespect your mother and your father. Especially me now having a child, I fully understand the amount of scrutiny. So much was against my mother for me to even be here. So for me to come out and disrespect her or to say anything towards the mothers of the world, I'm doing a horrible injustice to my spirit. And I'm sorry, women, a lot of men don't know all of the things that you go through, because we block it out. We just block it out. We don't factor in the diapers that you change or the milk that you've been giving us, and you know, the fact that you pushed us out of your, you know, lifing center, that you care for us that much. We don't factor that in. So when we discuss a grand cross, we need to be fully aware of, just imagine the saying when they say, you know, we all have our cross to bear. So our cross to bear is our shit. And if we're not fully, you know, hopefully in this channel, we've been compacting our shit, recompacting our shit. It's not that heavy to carry. We've made it into a cellular phone. Now, I don't play Fortnite. I need somebody to explain Fortnite. I was looking on it online trying to explain it, but I don't even understand. If this message resonates with the game Fortnite at all, please enlighten me, because I wanna figure the connection between the Ancestral Fortnight and the video game Fortnite. But ultimately, back to the grand cross and carrying your cross, you should be compartmentalizing and compacting your cross. Your cross shouldn't be this heavy as we go through a full moon transit. You want to be as light, because we're still dealing with a waxing moon. The energy is growing. So what are you cultivating? What are you growing? What seed did you set a week ago? And how can we begin to continue and cultivate the seed? You know, magic is very simple. Magic is just like gardening. The gardener that plants a seed, cultivates it, does the right things, it manifests. The gardener that plants a seed, one day comes back the next day, oh, this shit don't work. I ain't doing this gardening shit. This shit don't work. You get that too. So really understanding the moon and its processes and how it manifests, there is no way, there is no doubt that this energy can't manifest for you. And so as we begin to discuss the tarot of the week, and so as we begin to discuss the tarot of the week, we want to look at the Two of Wands and the Two of Swords. This all starts and ends with peace. The Two of Swords represents peace, and the Two of Wands represents dominion. Having full control of the Emperor and the Tower, being able to build and destroy. That's the Two of Wands. The Two of Swords is the moon in Libra, where you're fully aware that you have to deal with people, but you dealing with people is not going to disrupt your inner peace. No matter how this thing plays out, no matter how this thing goes, having that inner peace is something that's going to fully bring you to full realization. Give me 1 second. So also, you know, before I get off this tarot of the week, dealing with these deeper reconciliations, these deeper things that are happening, how can you rise above these? Like, it's very simple, man. It's very simple. By the peace that you are establishing in your heart as you cultivate these like just knowing that things are going to work out, knowing that things are working in your favor, knowing that you have ancestors, knowing that you have this deep spiritual lineage, knowing that nothing can hold you back, is going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot, because we're dealing with the first decan. We're not dealing with a progressed sign. We're dealing with the initiation, the beginning of something. So how do you want this thing to be? Can you utilize your full visualization? Are you doing the things that make you feel good? Are you factoring in your emotional body? This will be very key to understanding this energy. So this full moon in the Vedic sign is going to be in Pisces, or in the sidereal is going to be in Pisces. And every year, this begins the Ancestral Fortnight, which is a 2-week period of time where our departed ancestors, those known and unknown, can be readily received and accessed. So we all have this responsibility in helping our ancestors. A lot of times we think that our ancestors are simply there for us to help us. But see, we need to understand that our ancestors are here for us to help them too. Because when you think about it, a lot of them haven't let go of this material world. A lot of them didn't get to discuss this conscious information. A lot of them just simply don't know. And because our mental state is what we take with us, then they don't really understand that there is a spiritual life. So with this knowledge that you've gained, this knowledge that you've understood about this terrestrial life, you can begin to help them transition further into their spiritual lineage, into their spiritual divine kinship. And what's going to happen with this energy is when your ancestors realize their truth in the heavens and they let go of this world, then by default, they'll help you. And then the higher, you know, the more evolved ancestors, you know, they'll come down as well with unique opportunities to really break us free from all types of stagnation, heal all types of generational curses. But if we're not aware of this energy, that's why I started off this video with the fact of quantum physics, the fact that we have to be cognizant of this point in time. And if we were simply studying Western astrology, we wouldn't be aware. This is a quote from spiritualresearchfoundation.org. Just as we serve our parents and close relatives when they're alive as a part of our duty, we have certain duties unto them after their death. And during this period, the environment is filled with the subtle pressure from the billions of subtle bodies from ancestors and the vibrations of their unfulfilled desires. So we have to begin to be assistants to them as well. And not even just our terrestrial people who are struggling. We need to help our ancestors that are struggling as well. And we have that ability to do so. So it's best that we utilize it. And so for this program, the Orisha of the week is the ancestors. All those ancestors that are known and unknown. Don't matter if you have a lot of ancestors. It don't matter if you have one ancestor. This is simply for them. We've all had people that we've loved transition into the afterlife. And when people transition to the afterlife, they transition into our DNA. And they speak to us from all different types of angles. But are we paying attention to them, or are we focused on our emotions of sadness, our emotions of loss? This is where we could kind of get messed up with this energy. So we have to be so joyous and so clear that that connection has never been lost. That connection will never, ever get lost. We all come from the ancestral realm. You know, we will all go to the ancestral realm. You'll be an ancestor one day. So for this full moon, the best thing to do to celebrate this energy is to get a piece of paper, write as many loved ones as you can think of, pour libations, cook for them, thank them, honor them, respect them, let them be known, speak their names, you know. And if other names pop up, add them to the list. But really understand that there is a deeper connection that's going on with your ancestors right now that you can utilize. This is something that I deeply believe in. This is something that I think that would be so powerful for the individual, so I understand completely while I'm having technical difficulties. So I hope that this recording gets transmitted in a way that you can understand this message. And I apologize for the fact that it's not coming through as clear as it possibly can. So really understanding the worth and value of your actions and your attention as this full moon approaches is going to only serve you. If you want to be rich, if you want to be happy, if you want to be anything in life, it's best to pay attention to that as opposed to the fact that you don't have that, or you ain't gonna get that, or you wish you had it. You know, paying attention to the reality of things. And so I just want to thank everybody for, you know, listening to this video. If this message resonated with you, if you got anything from this message, please comment. You know, if this message didn't make sense and you need deeper clarification, you know, please comment as well. Please share this video, because you never know who this video could help, because we all have ancestors that are reaching out. Like I said, there is going to be billions of energy that's going to be permeating the earth over the next 2 weeks, and how we begin to handle it and understand it is going to be key, because there's going to be a lot of people, a majority of people, who are not going to understand it. They're going to be pulling their hairs out. They're going to be going crazy. They're going to be not even understanding the reality. They're going to think it's Donald Trump or Cardi B or, you know, somebody else. So it's very important to understand this energy for ourselves. And if I can help you become clearer on this next energy, in these next couple weeks of understanding this energy, that's going to be my job. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient with me. And I hope this message reaches you in good spirits. Peace.